أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. All praise and shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We gather in the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the most sacred of places, the best places in the dunya, in the house of Allah, beautiful, alhamdulillah. And alhamdulillah, once again, we say shukr to our guests tonight, Salie Manie, for once again affording us some of his time. And as we know previously from our other visits, alhamdulillah, we have experienced a lot of and learned a lot from his knowledge that he's imparted to us through the years, alhamdulillah. And look at Salie Manie, he's still very young, but he's 70 years old already. And he's dedicated his life to do some books also on the very topics that we've covered before. Tonight we have a very special topic to be discussed that's also part of our Tawheed class. And could the males go in front? There's this side. Tonight we're going to discuss aspects of predestination, the created Allah within man, cause and effect, free will, which is a very sensitive and also very serious topic. Understanding it under the correct Aqidah, and that is Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'at Aqidah, this is known as the Al-Ashari and Maturidi, that the majority of Muslims believe in, and that is also according to the Malaa'ikah, the Ai-Imma, Mujtahideen, Malik, Shafi, Hanbali, Hafi. Those are all the majority that believe in the way we can discuss, inshallah. But I just want to emphasize, when we direct questions, please be specific. Do not direct any questions to our beloved guest here in order just to test him, to find out if he knows what he knows, what you know, or perhaps even to ask questions just to show him off or to show that you know better. And say, we here specifically to honor our guest, to learn from him, and any question being asked, alhamdulillah, which you benefit from, obviously. It is a very intense subject, you understand it. And sometimes it can go very deep. In actual fact, so deep that even Sayyidina Ali said it's a very deep and dark ocean. Decree of Allah and Qadar Qadr. Don't dive too deep in there, you might drown it, subhanAllah. Also another thing, and I think our time is going to be a little bit limited tonight. Salie Manie's got a meeting with the station master of the VOC, Voice of the Cape. Inshallah, I'll be having a slot on the Voice of the Cape, inshallah, on the very subjects he's discussed with us in the books that he's produced. And that discussion is going to be the time slot and when and what dates also. And alhamdulillah, was another way of imparting knowledge to the broader community. And it's a shukr for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the sadaqatul jariyah, and it obviously goes extended to the next world forever. May Allah's reward to the Naim and Salie Manie. And once again, welcome, ahlan wa sallam, marhaban, jazakallah, Allah reward you tremendously and abundantly.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وأصحابه وبارك وسلم. O Ya Allah, open our hearts, our minds, lift the veils, and shower us with your true knowledge, so that through this knowledge we can get closer to you, inshallah. Let me say right at the outset, I believe that we should allow questions, but I will be the first one to say I don't know all the answers. This is an extremely deep topic. Now this might sound like a bit of, could almost be understood as being boastful, and may Allah protect me from that. But I want to tell you that I was in my late teens. So that's more than 50 years ago. I sat for 2 years in the lectures of the late Imam Mahdi Hendricks of the Azariah. Allah be pleased with him, inshallah. And for 2 years he spoke only on this topic. And since then I've been trying to grapple with this topic, and there are still so many things that needs to be understood about this. But if we don't understand this topic correctly, then many of the things that we believe in, the foundation is not secure. Because the moment you have uncertainties or doubts, even if you don't deal with it, it remains in your subconscious and it will always be there. You will be scared to ask the question because, for whatever the reason might be. And I want to say it's a topic that, for the time that's allocated to us, so if the masjid is prepared, even if the masjid was prepared to give me 50 years, I don't have 50 years. But inshallah, we'll do the best that we can. And I believe that what we should do is to start and understand aspects of this and understand it correctly rather than trying to understand everything there is to know about it. So that the little bit we know properly. And that is the great thing about knowledge. The moment Allah has blessed somebody with knowledge and they impart it to somebody else and that person understands it, then it belongs to that person. It doesn't belong to you. It belongs to that person. So inshallah we hope to get to a point where we will try and eliminate uncertainties and confusion and maybe incorrect understandings about wat Allah uitgesit het. En waar sit ons 'n choice in die matter? Is iets wat ons bang maak en ons praat baie daarvan en die moment dat as ons beyond a secret point gaan, then people step back because now they're not sure how to handle it. The first thing that I want to start off with, inshallah, is is the hadith of what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. Is it big enough to read?
Yes. Can you make it bigger?
If I could, yes. But no, the reason why I'm asking is because then next time I can make the slides bigger. But yo, as they need to come lease you or I'm
We need specs. It's big.
It's a clap a little fun. Inshallah. When Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was reported to have said 50,000 years before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created anything, there was absolutely nothing in existence, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instructed the pen to record in the preserved tablet, the Lawhul Mahfuz, everything that will happen in the dunya before it even started. But to record everything that will happen from the beginning till the end of time. Record everything in that tablet. And every single thing that was written down then, 50,000 years ago, everything that was written down then is not subject to change. It remains as it was recorded at the time. Now that hadith might give rise to a number of questions now. Maar wat is ons purpose hier op die dunia dan, as alles afgeskryf was? Waar vir choice in? Waar vir die hele question van, some of the questions? I'm not going to go through all of them. But these are some of the questions that might jump to your mind. Where and how does this work that things have been written down from the beginning till time, till the end of time, yet we aren't born yet, but Allah has written down all these things and it must happen like that. Some of these questions that I've listed there, like for example, your question of bad in the world, good and bad. Did Allah create good and did Allah create bad? I wanted to actually start there. I wanted to start there before this. Then I thought, let me rather bring that in later. We will cover that topic as best as we can, inshallah. And there is, of course, the question of the suffering, the earthquakes, and the things that look so horrible and unfair that we're confronted with on a daily basis. How do we understand all of this if at the back of our mind we know that Allah is fair? At that time when the pen recorded everything, it recorded who's going to Jannah and to Jahannam. Wow. No rocket even near complicated. And of course, where does our choice fit in them? Because our choices that we make on this dunya determines whether we will get reward or whether we will get punishment and where we're going to land up, in Jannah or in Jahannam. But let's just make the point. I think the last time I was here, I had a picture. I started off with the picture of the masjid. Remember? We went from the masjid, Salt River, we went to the bigger picture. Just remember how small your brains are. Please think of that. Think of how small our brains are. And when we want to ask questions, that some of the things that we would like to know, it's not that there are no answers. Our brains are not capable. It's not the vehicle that Allah created to understand everything in creation. So there are certain things that will be beyond our understanding, and we must accept our limitations as human beings. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone knows every single thing about every single thing. No one else, Malaa'ikah, Rasuls, scientists, whoever they might be, no one knows everything about everything, nor will they ever be able to know. Why? Because Allah is absolutely perfect, and Allah's attributes is without beginning, without end, and has no limitations. So only that which has no limitations and is absolutely perfect, only perfection can know perfection. And Allah is the only perfect without any shortcomings. So let's just keep that at the back of our minds when we ponder on these issues. So those are the questions. I've decided to start with the attribute of knowledge.
Just before we continue, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows from A to Z. That's why allow the situation to play out because of the code of justice.
We'll come to these are just the questions. We haven't even dealt with the actual issues now. Inshallah, we'll attempt to cover whatever it is that we need to do. The scholars say there are three sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, attributes, that they refer to as the linked sifats. Knowledge, remember this please. If you forget everything else, remember this. There are three sifat that are linked. If you want to understand this topic properly, you must understand that there are three sifat that the scholars of Tawheed has called the linked sifats, the attribute of knowledge, power, and will. But are they linked? They are not linked. It's only to make it easier for us to understand. Because every sifat is completely independent and perfect in its own right. Nothing can be added or subtracted to it, nor can it depend on anything. There's no weakness, there's no shortcoming in the sifat. But in order for us to understand it, I'll quote an example. Ek wil amper my sigaret het gehaal het, maar ek maar nie daar uithaal nie. Ek maar my lighter uithaal. I put the lighter there. I want to pick up the lighter again. Can I pick up that lighter if I don't know what I want to do? Is it possible to pick up the lighter if I don't know what I want to do? No, of course it's not possible. I don't even know I want to pick up the lighter. How can I pick up the lighter? So you have to have knowledge of what it is that you want to do. The second thing is, I can maybe want to pick up that lighter, but my arm, out of my arms, kry spasms en ek kan nie my arms move nie. I must have the ability or the power to be able to do it. And then I must have the wish of wanting to pick up the lighter. If I don't want to pick up the lighter, or I do want to pick up the lighter, how's the lighter going to be picked up? So, miskien is dit 'n goeie example here, maybe later on we can use other examples, but what I'm trying to demonstrate here is, you have to have the will to want to pick up the lighter, you have to have the power and the ability, and you have to have the knowledge of what it is that you want to do. So for us to understand these issues, the scholars has called it the linked sifat. And that's why I started with the attribute and the sifat of knowledge. Now we say Allah is all-knowing. Kinders leer daai as hulle Islam skool toe gaan, ons het dit almal geleer. But when we say Allah is all-knowing, how much further do we go beyond that to truly understand what it means when we say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all-knowing? The first thing that we must understand is that divine knowledge, the knowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has absolutely no limits and no boundaries. The point that we made earlier, that Allah knows everything about everything, that point is made. But new knowledge is never acquired by Allah. Understand what I'm saying here? There's nothing that can happen in creation that Allah doesn't know about. Allah knows everything, which means that nothing new can be added to what Allah knows. Why not? Because if it was that there was new knowledge, then it would mean that once the new knowledge is added to Allah's knowledge, that Allah would now have more knowledge than what Allah had before. Doesn't make sense. So Allah, nothing can happen in the entire creation where you can add to Allah's knowledge. And the other thing that confirms that is the fact that time, did time exist right at the beginning?
No.
It's a creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if something has been created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that can never impact or be applied to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like whatever we do, our ibadah or our bad deeds and our sins and heedlessness and whatever we do, never affects Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If the whole dunya from the beginning till the end of time were to say there is no Allah, it doesn't affect Allah anyway, whatsoever. And whether we make ibadah, it doesn't affect Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in any way. Because if your ibadah did affect Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, say for example, then it means that Allah's greatness, I'm just using examples for us to understand, say the greatness is at the highest possible level, and we all make ibadah to praise Allah, and that raises Allah's status. It means that Allah's status is now dependent on how much ibadah we make. So that is cancelled out. Whatever you do, Allah's greatness is as great as it ever can be, will be. It has reached, it is at the point of perfection.
Absolutely.
When nothing can be added or subtracted to it. So time as a created thing can never be applied to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whenever we think it's a point that you must try and imprint in your mind, time is a creation. So can it affect Allah? No. Never, in whatever form. Which means okay. We said that everything was recorded in the preserved tablet of when things are going to happen, what will take place, when it will take place, including what we are going to do the time when we do get born and we spend time on this dunya. That was all recorded already. Even who's going to Jannah and who's going to Jahannam was recorded in that preserved tablet. Now, can we from this conclude who will do good and who will do bad without us even having been born? Do we understand it like that? It could mean that. Nou begin die problems kom nou. Now we're grappling with the issue of it was written down that I'm either going to Jannah or Jahannam. But ek het dan nog eens op die dunia geland nie. I wasn't even born. Did Allah take this decision before we were born and predetermine? That's where the word predetermine comes in. You know that Allah is just and fair. It's not possible for Allah to be unfair. There are certain sifat that is associated with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, certain attributes that if any one of those sifats are not present, then we're not talking about Allah. Those die 20 sifats, as het allemaal daar geleerd, all of them must be present. If they are not present, but equally there are 20 sifat that one can never apply to Allah. For example, can Allah create another Allah? But Allah can do anything. Allah can do anything. Can Allah do anything?
Yes, but that can't create another Allah.
And then you are saying Allah can't do anything, everything. Or we don't want to go into the detail. There are certain things which would not be possible for Allah to do. And that is part of our belief system as Muslims. 20 sifat that must be there and 20 that's impossible. Now that would be one of the impossible things. There's a logic that one can apply, and just quickly, if there was another Allah, Allah did create another Allah. And the one Allah says it must rain and the other Allah says no, the sun must shine. Be chaos. It's unthinkable, it's illogical. So there are 20 sifat, and one of the attributes of Allah is justice and fairness, which we must remember at the back of our mind when we think of wat het Allah uitgesit en wat het Allah nie uitgesit nie. Even if it appears to us if it is unjust or unfair. Remember at the back of your mind, Allah is never unfair and Allah is never unjust. Remember that. En wat ek net vir almal van ons remind, klein ons is 'n breins, né? If you want to now ponder and debate, ja, but. Hoe groot is jou brein? Dink terug daar van die solar system en die Milky Way en dan kom jy weer vra, wat dan? So, well, the point is actually a repeat point to say, as far as Allah is concerned, when we're talking about time, past, present, and future doesn't exist because time doesn't exist for Allah. It's all rolled into one. There is no difference between past, present, and future because it is not something that is applicable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If time did apply to Allah, we're talking about Allah's knowledge now, right? I've not picked up this lighter yet. President, we succeed for Iman Anas at me. I didn't pick up this lighter yet. If time applied to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then that event didn't occur yet. So, it would mean, we say if time applied, it would mean that Allah's knowledge would not include that which will follow. So now I pick up the lighter. Now Allah becomes aware that I have picked up my lighter and Allah's knowledge is now added to because Allah depended on time. Can you see how dangerous it is if we fall in that trap of when we reason and think about these things and we apply time to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It means that as time progresses, so Allah's knowledge increases. Oh, what a horrible thought. Allah knows everything before, after, and now in the present. So past, present, and future never applies to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And just to confirm also, I think in one of the previous presentations we made here, we said that even the scientists, the people who have studied how this universe came into existence, they also believe there was a point where time did not exist. We're not even talking about people who believe in Allah. They claim to be atheists. But their research has shown to them that there was a point where there was no time. So time was created and therefore can never be applied to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And anything that is created requires a creator. It was not, and for it to be not, to be requires a trigger. It requires someone or something to bring it from a state of non-existence to existence. Can something just let me not go there. I was telling him off the point of hand. So here comes the important thing. What are we talking about when we say that the pen recorded who was going to Jannah and Jahannam before we were even born? We are not talking about something where Allah took a decision of how you must live your life. This point and this hadith that says 50,000 years before everything was created, Allah instructed the pen to record what was going to happen, was only for us to understand that Allah had knowledge of that. Allah had foreknowledge, pre-knowledge. Now, The pre-knowledge must not be confused that Allah actually made our decisions. Allah knew what decisions we are going to make. But Allah didn't make our decisions. Are we? This is a point. We shouldn't move beyond this point if we are not clear about this. Allah had knowledge of what I was going to do, but Allah didn't force me or instruct me or decided for me what I must do. Allah knew about it before the time. Now,
Yes, because if that was so, then there would be no point in bringing about creation.
yeah, one could say that. But I wanted to use an example to illustrate it. A more closer to home example. You've seen the movie before? Jy koi daar, jy watching movie. Jou vrou of jou man wat lang as jou lê koi watch it because hulle het nog nie gewatch nie. En jy weet wat gaan aan. Nou wat jy ook sê, wag, kyk net nou wat gaan nou gebeur, né? As jy kaffe een nie aan nie, wag bly stil man, jy het die movie klaar gewatch. That person has knowledge of what is going to happen before that thing happens. That's a simple example. But the more subtle example of that is, have you not heard your mother or somebody say to you, oh, ek het 'n baie snaakse droom gehad gestaan. Ek het gedroom so en so en so. En dan kry jy 'n klop aan die deur en het net so gebeur. Have you heard about things like that? For that moment, people are given pre-knowledge, even here. And that, may Allah forgive me for even making this point, but I would assume it's one of the ways that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows us the understanding of pre-knowledge. Before it happens, you know it's going to happen, or you get a sign of what is happening, and it happens exactly like that. So that you can understand, daai kleine bietjie wat daai persoon gekry het, is maar 'n glimpse van wat Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala het. Allah knows not only about that one event, but everything long before the time. Maar net 'n example wat ek wil gebruik het to illustrate the point about having knowledge before something actually happens. I don't want to repeat what I said already, but the instruction for the pen to record was so that we can understand that there are certain things that is unchangeable in the way that Allah has decreed that certain things must happen, but must not be misunderstood when we listen to this hadith that Allah made our choices. I know I'm repeating myself. Allah does not make the choice of a person. And as Haji Nazim said, what would be the purpose then? Allah made our choices, then what's the point of punishing people and rewarding people? Where does the free will aspect come into things? Then you don't have free will. You actually just like a Malaa'ikah then, where you can own, not just a Malaa'ikah, but like a tree or the sky can only behave the way Allah created it to be. It's got no choice. It must be what Allah created it for. We will create it differently. We will create it with certain things that we don't have control over, but the thing that Allah gave us that's different to the entire creation was free will and choice. You know, when free will and choice was offered to the rest of the creation, they were too scared to accept it, to be placed in between right and wrong, and then to make the right decisions all the time. They weren't prepared. The rest of creation didn't want to go near that. They were scared. But humanity accepted that quality of free will and choice. So we are unique in that sense. The point that I wish to make here is that if we understand that even now, where we started off right at the beginning, when we saw the hadith of what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, that the pen was instructed to record certain things, there was a certain uncertainty about how to understand this hadith. Now that we understand it to be that instruction was an expression of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's foreknowledge only, not interfering in your choices. Your choices will be your choices, because that is what you're going to come to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with your deeds, your book of deeds. Good deeds and bad deeds. There's some scholars that say it's 3 books. Good deeds, bad deeds, and your bounties. But let's for now say good deeds and bad deeds. That's what you're going to come to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with. So, your good deeds and your bad deeds was dependent on the choice you made. And Allah created you like that. That you will be exercising your choice between these 2 things. And Allah knew, not because Allah wanted. Allah wants you to do the good and stay away from the bad. And Allah told you through the Quran and the Sunnah, do this, stay away from that, and these consequences and whatever. Sit you down. And on top of that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent you a person like you, a human being, to live what Allah wants you to do, so that you can't say, ek het nie verstaan wat dit in die Quran staan nie. As jy nie verstaan wat in die Quran staan nie, dan kyk na hoe dit gelewe gewees het through Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There's the example if you don't understand it. So we've got no excuse to say there was no help given on this side. But Allah didn't just leave the Quran and the Sunnah on the side. Allah created something else on the other side. Nafs. And maybe if time allows ever, daar's so baie dinge wat mense moet van praat. One should talk about what is nafs. Do we understand what nafs is? But nafs, let's not go too deep in it now. Nafs would be the one thing. Shaitan. And just for what it's worth, shaitan can never force you. Allah didn't give shaitan the ability to force you to do anything. Shaitan has not been endowed with the power to compel you to do anything. He can only whisper to you. My whisper with the style sound. Because he knows you better than you know yourself. He knows your weaknesses. He knows what is just enough to make you, as hy wil hê, sy Manie Salie, hy dit as hy gaan sê Manie Salie, gaan sy object. Hy sê,
Koud.
Manie, das wat iemand is te koud nou. Want sy nie aan tassie na sy sê, het jy aan tassie, daarom kan ek nie Salie. You know, he knows what to say to whom. And the third one, nafs, shaitan, and the dunya. The dunya with all its attractions and temptations. Kar, huis, mooi man of mooi vrou, bank balance, positions, power, arrogance, allemaal die goed is op die kant van die dunya. Baie difficult. If you look at and you examine any one of our lives, including myself, then how much of us can say that we are above the attractions and the temptations of the dunya. Jy gaan miskien regular masjid toe, maar jy buite doen, die mans, hoe lyk my top? Weet ek nou, ek moet die baardjie aantrek, because ek gaan voor klomp mense praat, so ek moet 'n mooi baardjie aantrek, laat hulle kan notice my baardjie. Of jy staan voor die spieël, jy kan nie eens wegkom van die spieël, because jy moet kyk as reg, alles reg. Wat is dit? It's all the effects that the dunya has on us. And we fool ourselves to give reasons why we must do that. And we can motivate and justify it as much as we want, but we are all, by and large, slaves of the temptations and all the things that's caught up in the dunya. And in between dunya, shaitan and the nafs, Quran and Sunnah on the other side, choice in die middel. Liewe nou, en kom na my toe met julle deeds. Maar nou net ek het klaar afgeskryf, want ek weet wat julle gaan doen. So no one can lie to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because you will even be given the ability to see things, to see truth in the real way. So as ek dinge gedoen het, en sy vir mense gesê, nee, maar ek het dit gedoen vir baie rede en die dag gaan sy sien, hoekom het sy dit regtig gedoen? Dat weet sy was verkeerd, because die truth gaan clear wees vir jou, soos ons mekaar kan sien hier. So that you know if you're going to get punished, what you're going to get punished for. Now, I want to, let me just see what's the next one. Yeah, no, we're not going to do the attribute of power here. We're going to leave it like that for now. Sure. And open up for some questions on this matter. It's important that a question, moenie 'n question wees wat slim klink nie. The moment a mens 'n question pose wat slim sound, die enigste ene wat dink is slim, is die ene wat die question pose. Almal die ander sien dit as 'n question wat nie slim is nie. A question must be a question because we are uncertain and we would like to know more about this, or we want to clarify something that is not clear to us. Then it's a good question. It's not because ek gaan myself expose dat miskien weet almal die ander mense die I was probably so lank soos ek kan onthou, het my boeie het vir my gesê, het jy questions? Vra, daar is nie 'n question wat dom is nie. Daar is nie 'n dom question nie. If you don't know, no matter who knows the answer, doesn't matter. Is die hele dunia weet en jy het 'n question wat jy nie verstaan nie, en iets wat vir jou pla, dan het jy 'n obligation as 'n persoon om die antwoord te gaan kry vir dit. And if we don't do that when we're talking about Tawheed, Tawheed is understanding the unity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as we understand the qualities of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so we get to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala better. And the better you know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the closer you get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The closer you get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala endows you with wisdom. And if you get even closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, more veils are removed. And we said previously, then what starts happening? You start tasting knowledge. You taste it. The mind will disappear. Niks te doen met enigiets nie. Die mind is a lust. It's a wonderful thing, maar as a lust. Because you think you can solve problems by just using your mind. The thing to solve the problems with is the heart. Who purifies us a heart? Dit te doen met your degrees and your logic and your whatever. How do we purify the heart? Because a soft heart, compassionate heart, is something that Allah loves. And if Allah loves something, His bounty descends in abundance. And when that happens, then the limitations of the world disappear. Die material dinge, daarom is die hoof van die oulia, kan dit doen en het die gedoen en so aan. Mense wat te veel skool gegaan het, hulle word afgesit. It's not logical. It's not logical. It doesn't make sense. Explain it to me. Prove it to me. Yeah, maar mine. So if that's your limitation, you will never ever get through the door of the unseen world, and Allah is unseen. Let me end off there with a formal presentation and throw it open now for any points that people wish to clarify, questions that they may have. Ek moet nie nou afgesit word dat ek sê dat daar is dom en slim en dat is your questions. Put whatever question it is, and let me just make this proviso, I don't know all the answers.
The pen has recorded all our actions in practically history, right? Till the end of time. And so it's like ordained already that this is going to happen to you, this is going to happen to you, right? Now the hadith that I understand is that nothing can change the predestination of Allah except dua. In your experience, that's contradicts it.
That actually requires a presentation on its own. I've actually done a presentation. Dua is the only thing that can change the decree of Allah. But before we understand changing the decree, we must first understand what is the decree. So, if you don't mind,
No, I don't
to
mind.
keep the question, but we will deal, if time allows us, we will get to that point. How is it possible? Because it doesn't sound, on the face of things, sounds like a contradiction. Allah has